Hey EllisFamLifers, and welcome back to the channel. This is a new series and my very first collaboration. It is an interview with another autism mom. And if you'd like to see more, then stay tuned. Hey friends, thanks for joining us. If you're new here, this is EllisFamLife, #autistictwins, where we like to do three things. We want to raise, relate, and educate. Raise awareness and acceptance for nonverbal autism, relate to you and the autistic person in your life, and educate by sharing examples and stories of our life with nonverbal autistic twins, Alex and Will. So today's video is really special, and I'm really excited about today's interview because it's my very first collaboration, and I sat down on Easter Sunday with a dear friend and talked about her autism story. So she gets to share her story and you get to see what it's like, especially in this story for someone who has been dealing with this for almost 20 years, and the paths that have been forged for people like us who are just starting on our autism journey. So without further ado, let's jump into part one of our interview with Kim Poston. I hope y'all enjoy. Hey EllisFamLifers, and welcome back to our channel. I am here with a very close friend who I've known for 20 years and one of my best friends, and this is Kim.
Hi.
And
Something with the hair.
oh, she looks beautiful. A little background. I've known Kim for 20 years, and so she and Chrissy, her sister, are my best friends, my best grown-up friends, and she is my first interview. And the reason I wanted to interview is that she has a very cool story. Of course, it's autism related. And the thing that I want to bring up with Kim and Scott, her husband, is also here. And her sister Chrissy is here. And we are celebrating Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to all of you. The thing about Kim and Scott's story is they were fighting the battle before anybody was fighting the battle, because we didn't know a lot about autism. Their son is almost 20 years old. I wanted to come today and have Kim share their story. That's the really big take-home point that I want to take home today, is that Kim and Scott were fighting this battle before autism was really even on the radar. She can give us some good perspective, and I think a lot of times it's people who have been fighting the battle for a while that has helped us younger people and the people with younger autistic children have a little bit of an easier time, because there have been so many people fighting this battle for so long. So anyway, okay, Kim, so start from the beginning. Tell us about Ellis.
Ellis is our second child, second boy. There's 7.5 years between the boys. Brendan was very neurotypical. It was a different experience for me having a boy because, like, as far as siblings, I just have Chrissy. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have boys in our family. I didn't know anything about raising boys or anything, but Brendan was very mellow, very easy. We weren't, I don't know if you know this, I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids.
Oh.
And so both of the boys were wonderful blessings.
Miracle, yeah.
I mean, they were both completely unexpected. And then Ellis came along. And okay, anybody out there who's got more than one child, you know that you're not supposed to compare them. Mm-hmm. But you do notice, okay, well, they hit this milestone,
right.
at roughly the same age.
Right.
Or, or this one, talked at a year and this one didn't talk until 18 months. Or, you just, you're not really comparing them. You're just noticing similarities and differences, I guess.
Right. Always reminding yourself, okay, they're two different people.
Completely different people. And this is why, like, the average age for a milestone is an average, because some do it much sooner,
earlier.
Some do it much later.
Yeah.
And that's just an average, which is something I had to just chant to myself. Ellis, he was still in a crib So he was less than a year old. And he had gotten to where, as he got more motor control, you know, like when they're little bitty, like their arms will move and they don't really intend for their arms to move. It just happens and they're like, hey, what happened there? But as he got more motor control, he started doing these different things like that I know now were like self-soothing gestures, self-soothing habits. I didn't recognize what they were at first. And then he got to not quite a year old, and he would scooch himself up like in the corner of the crib right there, and he would mash the bumper pad down and he would just bang his head into the corner of the crib to go to sleep.
Oh my goodness.
Like it wasn't, I'm mad, so I'm going to bang my head until mom comes and gets me.
I seem to remember you telling me this, but it was not on my radar at all. Like I never would have thought.
Right.
Well, that sounds a little bit autistic, or that sounds like some kind of STEM behavior.
Right. Well, I didn't really think of it as like stemming or self-soothing or anything like that. And the only reason I knew anything about autism is because I had been in high school. I was a volunteer aide at a special needs kindergarten, and we had a lot of kids like with cerebral palsy where their mental function is not diminished at all. It's just simply
it's their
muscular.
Body. Right.
And then we had other kids who had, Down's syndrome or, other things where, their musculature was fine. They didn't need a cane or a wheelchair or whatever. But mentally they were, impaired.
Yeah.
And so we had just a huge mix of different abilities and disabilities. And one of my favorite things to do there was to help the physical therapist. Mm-hmm. And she would talk to the child, but also to me while we were working with each kid. And, okay, this is what this child has going on, and this is why we're doing this exercise, and this is how it's beneficial. It was just a really great learning experience. I had no idea that I would ever use that information anywhere else in life, but it was just, I've always loved to learn, so that was just a fun thing. But we did have some kids in there that had this really weird diagnosis called autism, and nobody really, like your average person had probably never heard of it. Yeah. But they just, like, there were some things that they did not have in common at all, but then there were other things, like the stemming. One kid may do the hand flapping, or another one would tap his head, or so how it manifested was different. But it was all self-soothing, stemming type things. And so when Ellis started, about the same time that he started with the banging his head to go to sleep, I also noticed, like, we never had problems with him making eye contact. Mm-hmm. But around the same age that they start gaining motor control, where they can, like, turn over on their tummies or move to where they want to be or whatever, he didn't like to be held. He didn't really want you to hug him. Mm-hmm. Now, I was the exception, but just about anybody else, like, he acted, the way he responded, it was like it was painful to him. So I'm thinking, like, okay, has he got some type of nerve issue? Like, I'm just, my brain's just going all over the place. And so. And had you even thought about autism yet? I had. Because he was still so little. He was still so tiny. That you think. And sometimes kids are just unique. Yeah. Because I've also been a nanny over the years, and so I've worked in daycares, and I've worked with a lot of kids and a lot of different types of kids and personalities of kids. Right. And sometimes kids are just odd little ducks, Speaking of odd little ducks, I know y'all hear that in the background, but that's just keeping it real. Yes. Sometimes kids just have quirks, and it's not because they're autistic or, they have any other type of issue. It's just something that they prefer or dislike or whatever. Right. And especially when they're so young, it's hard to really tell. I know. Yeah, because he was so little. So, but then about the time they hit like a year or so old, they start like mimicking words or trying to mimic sound. Like you blow a raspberry and they try to blow a raspberry back at you.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're starting to parrot these things.
Right.
And he didn't do that.
So he did not parrot sounds. I'm trying to remember. All I remember is that he toe walked.
Oh, Lord. Yes,
I remember the toe walking, and I remember the weird drool. If he was sucking on a peppermint or something.
Oh, good Lord. Yes.
And I just thought, oh, it's just him. That's just the way Ellis is.
No. Yeah. So.
Because autism was not on my radar either.
No.
You know?
The older he got, the more things I noticed that I was like, you know, I really think
he's a lot like those kids in that class.
I really think he's maybe autistic. That would explain the autism label would explain a lot of things that don't make sense.
Right. This was before we had a spectrum, right?
Yeah, there was no spectrum at that time. You were either autistic or you were not autistic.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it was very strange trying to navigate these conversations with the pediatrician or, you know, all these things because they're looking at you. Anybody who's ever struggled to get a diagnosis of any kind, whether it's, you know, a physical ailment diagnosis or, you know, a mental wiring thing like autism or whatever, it's not that you want a diagnosis.
Right.
It's that, okay, there are these issues.
Yep.
And as long as we don't know what to call it, then we also don't know what to do about it or don't know what it's going to end up looking like, or
you can't get the resources until you get the label.
Right. If you have a broken bone, until it's diagnosed as a broken bone, nobody's going to put a cast on it. They're not going to give you pain meds. They're not going to give you crutches. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that if your child is autistic that they're broken. That's a very bad analogy. But what I'm saying is you can't get help for it if you don't have a name for it.
Right.
And so it's not that I was trying to get my child labeled as autistic. It's that I felt like my child was autistic and I couldn't get anybody to recognize that. Because he would make eye contact.
Right.
So he was one of the few.
Relatively neurotypical. I remember.
In some ways.
In some ways,
yeah.
Right.
And so this was.
And he was bright.
Yeah.
He didn't talk a lot.
Well, he didn't talk until after 3.
Right. It took him a long time to talk.
And I started talking.
I just kept thinking he just doesn't have anything to say yet. You know.
Well, and that's basically what our old pediatrician told us. I had taken him to see her for his 2-year checkup, and he had really bad spatial awareness.
Oh, I remember.
Really
I totally remember that. Yeah.
So we were in the office. We were in the exam room with the pediatrician for his 2-year checkup, and you know the fat little Tykes chairs, you know, the molded plastic, and they're only like this far off the floor, right?
Yeah.
And they're big and chunky, and so he was sitting in one of those, sitting on his bottom, feet on the floor, not climbing, not twisting and turning, just sitting there, and fell out on his head in front of the pediatrician. And once we ensured...
Wait, he did it in front of her, though.
He did it in front of her.
Thank you, God.
And once we ensured that he was not concussed...
No head injury.
Or anything like that, I actually told her, I said, I am so glad that he did that in front of you. This happens multiple times every day. Like, he just will run into things or over things or fall. Like, bare floor, he's barefoot, and he just face plants. Like he would just fall, and it was like
it was rather concerning.
I mean, and again, this is one of those teeny tiny little puzzles pieces. Yeah, in a 1,000-piece puzzle. So by itself, it's like
nothing.
Okay, he's clumsy. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you put that with the continued, now at 2, he's still banging his head to go to sleep. Yeah. At 2, he's still not talking. Right. At 2, he's walking, but he toe walks exclusively.
Walking. I do remember
Whether
that.
he's walking, running, no matter what he's doing, it's only on his toes.
Yes.
He can walk flat-footed.
Right.
But his default is toe walking.
Right.
Exclusively.
He did not like shoes or socks.
Oh,
and
he didn't
sensory
like shoes or
issues,
socks.
For the love.
Yeah.
Could not keep anything on his feet.
Yeah.
And it was.
I remember he
almost,
toe walked barefoot.
Yes,
I remember
all the
that.
time. If it was above freezing, he was probably barefoot.
Yeah.
Because it was just not a battle.
I completely
I was going to fight.
understand.
I just was not going to fight that
It's
battle.
not worth it.
So he had a lot of sensory issues, like certain fabrics, corduroy. Keep in mind, this is late 90s, early 2000s. Even as a baby, corduroy was a no-go. Any shirt or sweater that had an applique that was like, had the backing on it that would touch his skin.
Yeah.
Nope, off limits. Just inconsolable screaming and crying until you took it off. Now you could immediately put a different article of clothing on him. He's fine.
But it couldn't be.
But there
corduroy. It had to be. It couldn't be a certain material.
It still can't be certain materials or like you remember the rugby shirts were popular where it had like the different color materials stitched together and there were seams.
Yeah. None of that.
Seams, none of that. Nope.
Yeah.
And regular colors too. No.
It couldn't be like wild colors or
no plaids or
Yeah, it's just solid colors.
No patterns.
Solid colors.
Solid colors. And the color thing came up a little bit later though, as he got a little bit older. But the texture thing was from an infant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no shoes and no footies on the
No. And my mother-in-law, we had gone to their house. He was just talking, so he was 3, 4, somewhere right in there. It was cold and wet, and he wanted to go outside and play. And they have a fenced backyard.
So yeah,
and
safe
it was
area.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to wear socks and shoes. And just the thought of it, he was starting to get upset and trying to explain to me with his very limited vocabulary that this was not okay with him.
Yeah.
And me trying to get him to understand, okay, baby, it's 40 degrees and wet. This is not negotiable. You have to wear shoes.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law came in and she waited for Ellis and me to finish our conversation, and she said, can I talk to you for a second? And so we stepped out of the living room into the hallway, where she was very good about not doing anything that would undermine us in front of the kids.
Yeah.
And she said, I have some socks that I bought, and they don't have elastic. They don't have an elastic cuff, like they're ankle socks.
They're footies, ankle socks.
They're footies, but they don't have elastic at the top. And would it be okay with you if I let him try on a pair and see if that helps?
Yeah.
And I was like, Judy, at this point,
Sure.
I will kiss you on the mouth if you can get him to wear socks without screaming.
Yeah.
We bought those socks up until like 3 years ago.
Oh my goodness. So
they quit making them. Is why we still buy them.
The last 15 years you've been buying those socks.
Yeah.
Because that's what he wears.
Because that's what he would wear.
So it is okay to buy the same pair of socks forever.
We
just let it go.
They
Don't
had
worry
3
about
colors:
it.
black, gray, and white.
Oh, and they're nice, good, plain colors.
Yep. Dark colors, plain colors, solid colors.
And they're made out of like t-shirt material.
And they were made of like a jersey material.
Yeah.
And there were no seam.
And no seams. Yep.
No seams, no elastic. And so,
It's like a moment from heaven opening. It's the little things.
Look, y'all, take these little nuggets from Jesus when he gives them to you and appreciate them.
And just do it. Yep.
Listen, that is one of my favorite gifts that my mother-in-law has ever, and I'm going to cry. That's one of my favorite gifts that my mother-in-law has ever given me is the ability for my son to be able to wear socks and shoes without wanting to pull his own hair out.
Yeah.
Or cry or just have some kind of meltdown.
Right.
Because do what?
Without it being
painful.
Yes,
right.
because for him,
it is painful.
Sensory input like that is his nerves interpret it instead of it. Like for us, something scratchy or too tight is uncomfortable. It's not pleasant.
Right.
But for him, the way his brain translates those signals is it's actually a pain impulse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he was feeling pain.
Yeah.
It just was from something that he shouldn't ordinarily be feeling.
Right.
Be causing pain. And
right.
so Yeah, that really is one of my favorite things that my mother-in-law's ever done for me. You know what? I let him wear them on Easter.
Solve that
he
problem.
wore them with sandals in the summertime.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. If that makes my child happy and it's not hurting anybody,
Yeah.
I don't care if it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't care if he looks like a 50-year-old at the beach wearing socks with his sandals. That's just something that shows up in TV shows and movies a lot.
I know, right?
The guy in the Bermuda shorts with the socks and sandals.
Yeah. Okay, friends, if you have enjoyed this part 1 of our collaborative interview with Kim Poston, be sure to click that like button. If you're interested in seeing more of EllisFamLife, #AutisticTwins, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to ring notifications for videos that I release on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. If you know of someone who needs to meet us or needs to hear our story or needs to build community because they're alone in the autism world, then share this video with them and get our message out there. Head on over to Facebook and like us on EllisFamLife #AutisticTwins and on Instagram EllisFamLife_AutisticTwins. We also have a CBD page. If you're interested in knowing more about our use of CBD with our twins, Alex and Will, then see us on Facebook at EllisFamLife #AutisticTwins CBD VIP. And I look forward to seeing you in all of those places. And thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Stay tuned for next week for the next part. And as always, I look forward to next time.